Welcome back to a Celtic State of Mind. It is Monday afternoon, and I truly am delighted to be joined by Acsom Rabbani and Jerry Taylor. We're going to try and untangle the mess that is Celtic Football Club at the moment. Acsom, people say, oh, look at you, you're entitled. What's wrong with you guys with all your big budgets sitting on top of the league, and you've got your banners out talking about the boards? Basically, we're getting called a bunch of entitled, spoilt brats, Acsom. It's not as simple as that, is it?
No, not at all. I've been having these discussions over the weekend with people on social media, friends of other teams, and you know what? If wanting my club to be the best version of itself and to try and aspire to progress year on year makes me entitled, then so be it. I'll happily take that. You know, at the start of the season, I was thinking back before I came on here. You know, at the start when you have your kind of aspirations and expectations for the season, you're looking at it on the back of a treble. You're thinking, right, okay, we want to win the league again, obviously try and get a couple of the cups and really make a mark in Europe. That was the kind of big thing we were all talking about, you know, and then we got the Champions League draw and we're all looking at that and thinking, you know what, we've got a chance here. You know, it's a good looking group. And you fast forward 4 months to the point where if you said to me, we'll win the league on the last day of the season, you know, by a fingernail, I'll bite your hand off for it. And that's what they end up doing to you. They almost dampen your ambition to the point where you'll accept not the bare minimum, because obviously winning domestic trophies is brilliant and we love it and it's not easy. But at the end of the day, we are in a situation where it's one of two teams that are going to win the league. We feel that we should be, you know, getting better year on year. We were going into this season really looking forward to Europe and looking forward to carrying on from last season. To the point now, it's a 14-game season, and all of us now will literally bite your hand off just to get by the line and get that trophy done. And that's what happens because they almost get you to that point where we as fans suddenly then think, yeah, as long as we're a wee bit better than Rangers, we'll all be delighted again. But that's where we need to start looking at the bigger picture. And as the caption says, this isn't knee-jerk, this isn't entitlement. This is stuff that we've been saying for years. The club is not proactive, does not, you know, look and try and be the best version of itself, and it waits until the proverbial hits the fan, and then that's when they suddenly maybe make a drastic move. And we've seen in the past, and all we're calling for, and all we did call for in that January window and the summer window, was that let's sort this out before it becomes a mess. And here we are on the back of our... How many times have me and you came on, Jerry, on a Monday now, and it's talking about, you know, disappointing results, disappointing performances. So look, we are where we're at. 14 games to go, but yeah, we predicted this weeks ago, and this is where we're at.
This is the thing, and we've been broadcasting on a Celtic State of Mind on a daily basis since the fabled 10 in a row. I don't know where that came from. 10 in a row season, and we've done it every single day, every single match day. And when we went through that campaign, we seen that there were signs. There were signs that were saying to us, listen, this is falling apart at the seams. And we spoke about it. We couldn't protest because we weren't in the stadium. And this was one of the big things. I remember a lot of people, Jerry, saying at the time, it's a good thing for the board that we're not there because we can't vent our anger, let them know that we're unhappy. It was almost as if they could get away with whatever they wanted to do. You know, it's not with hindsight that we're saying Dubai was a bad idea in that January, because we all called it. We could see it miles off. And as Acom's saying there, getting called entitled, I don't think so. I think if you're supporting Celtic, and people do it in different ways, you know, there's the Celtic Down Under guys who can't go to the games, but they still support Celtic. They support Celtic by putting in their time to create content for the Aussie fans and all the others that have tuned in. Largely since Big Ange came in. I know that there was an upturn at that point. Great content. They'll watch Celtic when they can. They'll buy the merch. They'll create content, etc. And then you've got people who go home and away every single European game, Jerry. There's different variations of how to support Celtic, but nobody can turn around and say that because you have an opinion on what is going wrong that you're an entitled supporter or indeed an entitled fan base. I would flip that and say, well, if you're happy to be fed what the club's giving you and it's mediocre or it's below standard, that's the difference between being a successful club and one of these clubs that wins a trophy every now and again.
Exactly. And the thing is, like you said, we've been saying it for a few seasons and it's not come out of the blue. The thing that, to me that's got me the most, that Peter Law coming out and saying how much money that we've got. It's almost kind of rubbing it in. And
Yeah.
I think that's why a lot of the fans are saying, right, well, why tell us that? Why tell us that? At the beginning of the season, the sound bites for Rodgers where I'm coming in because we need quality, we need to do better in Europe. So we did get our hopes up. So of course we're going to be like that. We complain when we're winning as well. It's not just when we're not winning. We've seen it coming. I'm sick to death. Like, there's been a cost of living crisis. There's so many people out there that still worked hard so they could buy the strip to wear at the games, all that kind of stuff. We're putting so much money into the coffers. I don't know if I've said it before, but their Christmas advert angered me because it was so come and buy everything. It wasn't about the family feel, about Christmas coming up, you know that kind of nice vibe they did with their adverts a couple of years ago. It was just Merry Christmas, come buy everything for your shop. And a lot of people would have done that for their kids, probably couldn't afford it, things like that. And it all adds up. And the fact that we're just we don't seem to be putting out there, like even Brendan Rodgers saying he agrees to take that risk. You know what I mean? Take that risk, get that other player, extra players in. I was so positive all the way up, saying, no, just give it to January, the transfer window, we're going to do something. When we didn't really act in the transfer window, I know Brendan Rodgers says a lot of players didn't want to come, and there wasn't a lot of kind of active business being done, especially like down south as well. But it didn't seem that there was a lot of effort. I mean, they say there was. We don't know what was behind the scenes. I just think they've went, like as I'm saying, we're a wee bit better than them. So as long as we're doing that and we're winning the title, we're happy. Everyone knows I'm on here. I get slagged for being too positive for 8 months. For 2 weeks, I've been negative, and I'm getting pelters online with Acsom as well. You can't win. I'm the most positive.
Negativity? Is it negative?
It's disappointment.
Being negative is looking for something to complain about when it's not there.
Yes.
Walking into your workplace, Asim, on a Monday morning and, sucking the life out of a room, being negative for no reason. This isn't being negative. This is looking at a situation where you're saying being the best version of yourself. That's all you want for Celtic. And then you get to the point where, let's be honest, we completed Scottish football. We won everything for 4 years. And you think to yourself, right, now we want progression. Now we absolutely want to push this on. We fell off the edge of a cliff, and we were left in a situation when Ange Postecoglou got the job where there was absolutely no room for error. There was no margin for error. We had to, we've used it time and time again, the signings had to hit the ground running to improve what we had already. Ange Postecoglou started that job off with one arm tied behind his back against Midtjylland when Near Beaton gets sent off. We've got to bring on Dane Murray, an 18-year-old who'd never kicked a ball for Celtic, right? And then in the return leg, we're playing Welsh and Dane Murray. He very quickly got that sorted because the recruitment, there was a laser-focus approach. The recruitment was right. It's gone wrong since that first season under Ange in terms of recruitment. People are now digging a wee bit deeper, Asim, which tends to happen when things aren't going right. We're now told that the head of scouting is brilliant at selling Pringles sweaters in golf shops. Why is he in a job? So is that the best version? If he was brilliant at scouting, I don't care if he's the manager's laddie or if he's Gordon Strachan's laddie, Dermot Desmond's or Peter Lawwell. Doesn't bother me. You're not telling me he's the best at that particular job. And I think that the recruitment has shown in the last 4 windows, Matt Lawwell's definitely not the best at that job either.
No, and there has been chat about what's changed. I had a discussion with one of my close friends at the weekend, and he's like, well, what's changed since Ange? And other than the obvious, which is obviously after around about the second window, in came Mark Lawwell, I think Ange was an anomaly, in terms of the figurehead he was at the club. He was someone who took a hands-on approach to literally everything. So whether it was having phone calls with signings before they got, before he gave it the okay, he wanted to make sure were they the right character, were they the right personality, did they want to see the club go in the same direction as himself? That's quite rare. You don't see a lot of managers like that these days. A lot of managers are very much modern day coaches who do in the kind of Brendan Rodgers mould, where they pride themselves on how they can get the best out of players, the coaching side of things. Brendan Rodgers isn't the type of guy that's probably going to go around and get too hands-on with the scouting. So I think that's what's happened again here. Brendan probably came in and was told that the scouting's been improved. He spoke to Callum McGregor in the summer. They've sold him this dream that, look, under Ange Postecoglou, look at the way the scouting's improved, look at the players that we've brought in. Rodgers has thought, okay, fair enough. It looks like the club are in an improved situation from the past. But then the players that have been identified just weren't at it, and it's probably taken Rodgers a while to have realised that. And then we've seen the disaster which has unfolded in the last 2 windows. where half the players that we've got in January have gone on loan or we're about to go on loan in the case of Lager Bielka. So, this is where it comes to a bigger picture of, I think, the model needs to change. I think we need a director of football in. I've been saying it for a while. Someone that comes in and that's their remit is to have a long-term role at the club where they oversee any change, so whether that's managers or players changing, it just becomes linear. And I think that's where we've been a mess, because Rodgers has came in and just taken on the word that, the recruitment's been okay, and hasn't really had a hands-on approach with it, I don't think, in the summer. He just probably thought, okay, we'll go with it. And then he's realised halfway through the season that these players aren't up to it. And then we've got the January situation there, where we've had so many issues, so many glaring positions that we've said we need to address, and still you see it's costing us again at the weekend. I know we'll probably go on to talk a bit about the game, but that left-back situation, it's comical that we've still not addressed it, and it's going to cost us points continuously, to the point where literally it's depressing that we're now in a proper goal difference type of fight for this title race, when I remember the first time I came on this show, I think we were maybe 8 points clear. We maybe drew at Motherwell, and that was the first sign of things going downhill. Drew at home to Motherwell. So
it's your fault,
yeah.
Acsom.
Well, that's it. I feel like I've came on most Mondays and it's on the back of a drop points. But I seen a stat the other day that in the last 15 games we've dropped 12 points. We'd be third in the table. That's unacceptable. And as Jerry, you said earlier, we've been complaining even when we're winning, and that's not negative. It's just using your eyes. We're watching, where we can see the performances. We can see that it's not looking good. And even on the back of 6 straight wins there, you've seen the Ross County game, and we're like, okay, we got the win, but it was honestly, you could see the drop points coming a mile off. So we've got a game to quickly come around on Wednesday, and your hope is that things can change there. But how many times have we said that all season?
Well, the big thing for me is, and I'm going to bring this up, Jungle Lion. Just don't forget, Rodgers has never won at Easter Road. So you can start stacking this up. Rodgers has never won at Easter Road, right? You can have a look at that, the points tally over the last 15 games, right? Because obviously we've got 14 games to go. And you think to yourself, well, if we continue with that run of form, we're definitely not going to win the league. Hearts have won more points in the last 15 than Celtic, and obviously Rangers have done that as well. So there needs to be a change. How big or small that change is will all depend. I'm not sure we're going to get a managerial change. We're not going to get any behind-the-scenes changes in season. That's not going to happen because, I know that the club are dysfunctional, but we're not going to be making these big changes. So what has to change on the park? Acsom mentioned there, we're going into these games, Jerry, at the weekend, and we'll start talking about the Aberdeen game, whereby I've looked at that goal, Miovski's goal, a dozen times. And you can't actually lay the blame at one individual. There's so much going wrong in that move. We're in possession, but it does start with Bernabe. He is woefully out of position for a kickoff, right? Now, I'm going to be hard on him. I think it was a terrible pass because Bernardo's off balance and he plays it straight, right in front, directly in front of the Aberdeen player. Who was it? Barron, I think, that managed to get the possession initially. So Bernardo's, he's kind of shoved out of possession because he's off balance. But the pass is terrible. And what he's done, Bernardo, right? Bernabe, is he instantly, as soon as he's released the ball, he's ran so far that he's flat-footed himself. So the minute Barn wins the ball, he's done. He's out of position. He's never going to regain his position. It's just so inexperienced, that kind of football. And he could have played Palmer. Palmer was actually wider left, unmarked. He could have actually played the pass to him. And from there, it is an absolute comedy of errors. It's a terribly defended move in Celtic's, in terms of Celtic's perspective. And you look at the fact that we've then got a situation where Palmer basically does one of the ones, Jerry, where he runs up to the player and then does that, as if to say, I'm not tackling him. And we've seen that time and time again. We have criticised him for weeks because his defensive play has not been good enough. He doesn't have the bite. He doesn't have the appetite to put in the tackle there. You know what? Bring him down. I remember being at the League Cup final 2012 against Kilmarnock, and we lost possession. Top right wing, we lose possession. Kilmarnock break, and there's a moment where Ki Sung Young can just take a booking. I mean, we're in our attacking third. Take a booking, mate, and he doesn't do it. He doesn't do it. Kilmarnock go up the pitch and score. That reminded me of the Kilmarnock goal earlier this season, where Greg Taylor is so far up the park and so far out of position that basically they're on the counter, we're on the back foot. I've criticised Scales because his covering play's no good enough. Callum McGregor, his covering play's no good enough. And Nawrocki, it's absolute basic defending, isn't it? Get the guy on his weaker foot, close the angle. Yeah, it's a nice jink. It's a brilliant finish. You can't take anything away from Miovski. Whether or not we should have signed him is a completely different debate.
Yeah.
But it was a terrible, terrible goal. And it starts with Bernabe cannot defend, Jerry. He is never going to be a Celtic defender in a million years. Yet, we've brought in 11 players, 20-odd million pounds spent. We don't have a replacement for Taylor. That is negligence. That is abysmal squad management.
Some laugh, boys?
I know. But this isn't negative. Remember, this is not negative.
How do you talk about the obvious? Right, to not get a left back in, it's negligent. It really is. They've had all that time. They've not just had the transfer window, lads. They've had the whole months leading up to it to identify someone. I mean, I'm not as masochistic as you, mate. I couldn't keep watching that goal over and over again to see whose fault it was.
I just look, Jerry. I just kind of phased out.
Clockwork orange.
Exactly. Yep.
Mate, I put in the group chat as well. Miovski's going to score today, isn't he? It was just written in the stars. One touch, one shot, one finish. Anyway, what was the original question? Just how bad is it?
We're talking the fact that you've brought in 11 bodies and we haven't replaced or even brought up a backup for left back.
And still not testing Scales in his natural position at left back as well, which I think's definitely been an option. When you look at, I know some people say Bernabe played well. He did in patches, but he's not a Celtic quality defender. He's not the quality that's going to see us through. But that's who we've got, and that's the frustrating part of it. Is we've had so long to do it. It's negligence, like you said, and the fact is that they're going, "Oh, it's fine." That's even worse. See if they went, look, we tried our hardest, couldn't get a left back. It's been a nightmare, but hey, we've got to go with the team we're doing. It's not. It's a case of, here's your cake and eat it and don't ask any questions. It's puffing me out. I'm getting sick of the, I'm not going to say that. I'm not getting sick of it and I'm puffed out, but I'm allowed to be puffed out. Megan's told me to be a wee bit more positive on the show today as well because she thinks that affects my mental health.
Well, no, listen.
Come on here. Sorry, I apologize. I was just going to say we come on here and we want to try and be positive. And you look at the run of wins we went on, and we were being positive even at the end of the Ross County analysis last week. We were saying, look, end of the day, it's another win. But it was just the fact that we've not really been consistent in performances enough for us to really, really go on a run and really believe that we can. Go on a longer run than 5 league games, which was pretty decent, but it had all the hallmarks for us to now really kick on, and that was kind of what I was clinging on to. I thought after the January transfer window, Brendan Rodgers' teams notoriously do come out, and we usually have a strong second half of the season, so that's what I was kind of hoping for. And then for the first real difficult away challenge, we've kind of just fallen short again, and I think that's where the frustration and what people perceive to be negativity comes from. But as you said, I don't think we're being overly negative. We're just calling it how we see it. We're hoping that we can, get on the back of a more positive run of form and run of wins. Again, we'll try and we'll obviously be upbeat and look forward to Wednesday, despite the previous record we've got at Easter Road. So let's hope so. But like you both have said, I don't think it has been negative. I think we're being balanced. We're trying to call it how we see it.
Exactly, and looking ahead to Wednesday night at Easter Road. Negative would be to say, oh, we're going to get beat. I think what we do in Acsom is saying what we're going to do differently on Wednesday night. We've started with a left back. We'll come back to that. I'm very interested in talking about recruitment, how we do it, right? Because we are facing a situation that we could actually finish this season with the guts of 100 million quid in a bank without the league trophy. Now, that at that point is disastrous. I don't care how much money you've got in the bank. You've not won the league, right? And at that point, people going about change. There's no point in talking about change because you can't actually engineer it these days, just the way that the club is structured. Well, of course, there's ways of engineering change. And the club knew, even because the Celtic support weren't happy with the way things were going in Ronnie Dyle's second season, and they're looking out there from their comfy seats in the main stand, and the top tier is virtually empty. And then you're looking at the Europa League campaign that season, and we shut the top tier. There are ways that fans have been able to show the board, we're not happy with this. You've got to actually invest. You've got to do something different. And it's not about just taking that money and chucking it at the problem. It's about doing it in such a way. So at this moment in time, I don't want Celtic to spend big money because we've not got the recruitment structure in place. No. We need to get that sorted first. That's the root of the problem. And I've said this before, and I can't for the life of me, establish in my own mind why Celtic don't do this differently. See, if you were to go right back to that season where we lost the league under Neil Lennon and look at every single player that was signed since then and ask yourself how the signing happened, how much it was down to data-driven analysis, how much of it was down to scouting, and how much it was down to recommendations, right? Now, I'm all for a recommendation from a gaffer who knows the player. Kyogo, classic example. He's come in, the gaffer knew him, he knew the quality of Dyson Maeda, he knew the quality of Rio Tati, Aaron Moy. These guys, they've got the eye test of the manager. So you'd kind of trust that. What about all the others, though? Because I've not done it, but if you were to go to the agency of every single player that's signed in that period, I think you'll start seeing a trend. And it'll be a very lazy and complacent approach on how to sign players. And it's certainly not a data, particular approach. So, for example, you need a left back, Acsom. If you're part of my recruitment team and I'm the football manager, I can say to you, right, we're going to need to strengthen at left back. I've had a look at Greg Taylor. I quite like him. I think we can do better. Greg might be the backup, but Bernaby's not going to do. Within 5 minutes, you should be able to give me a short list of players because otherwise it's reactive. We've got to be proactive in this department. You should be able to tell me already. I've got a list of 5 guys that we're already looking at. Here's the data. Here's the guys that'll cost us more than £5 million. So you look at all the metrics, you look at the data, and then we can actually give them the eye test. And then after that, the manager needs to speak to the guy. Are we doing any of this? Because when you look at the 9 players that came in the summer, take away Awata because all the analysis that had been done at that stage, the deal had already been done. How did we recruit Lagerbielke?
Starfield.
Right. How did we recruit Nawrocki? This isn't me having a dig at Nawrocki. I've seen enough to think he might be a decent acquisition, but for £4.3 million, he was brought in as Starfelt's replacement. Almost a like for like in terms of the price, right? How did we recruit him though? Because did we put into the database, which is available to top clubs, elite clubs, big clubs, right? This is what we need, centre half. This is the age criteria. This is the wages. We want a guy playing in Europe. This is how much we're prepared to pay. This is how much we want to look at with regards to metrics. How fast is he? How can he play short passes, long passes, aerial duels? Right, okay, you've got 5 guys. And at that point, you then go and watch them. How many times did we watch Nawrocki, do you think, Acsom? How many times did we go and watch him play?
Yeah. Well, to be honest, out of the centre backs that we bought, I thought in terms of Nawrocki, seemed like he was probably one of our main targets. We kind of identified him pretty early. We paid decent money for him. He came from a team. Was it Legia Warsaw that we got him from?
Legia Warsaw, yeah. Yep.
So we've dealt with them before. He's playing for a team that usually are one of the better teams in their league. So for me, the profile of that signing didn't concern me as much as, like you say, the Lagerbielke one, which we've spoke about for a number of times now. Just lazy because see when it's something to do as basic with speed, which is obviously the major deficiency that Brendan Rodgers identified with him and why he's not that's not something that that's a basic thing that scouts can identify very quickly. Why did it take us to sign him and then for Rodgers to see him? So I blame the manager even for giving the go ahead in that one because that's not something that's hard to identify. Basic lack of speed, if that's not what you're looking for in your centre back. That's something that we could easily have avoided. And as you say, that signing came about, by all accounts, because same agent as Starfelt. Same with you've seen in the past with the Dudu Dahan link. How many players did we get via him? Now it looks like we've got the Benfica link as well, which is fine. Sometimes you can use that, use contacts, use agencies. But it seems like 90% of our business is done through this kind of laziness rather than, as you spoke about, data-driven proper scouting, and then having a list of targets. What it seems like we do right now is very scattergun. You'll identify one left back, and if that doesn't work, that's it. We'll move away. We'll just stop looking. Have a list of targets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and work your way down. If one doesn't come, because by all accounts, that's what Roger said there, that some players couldn't come, some players wanted to come, but their club wouldn't allow them. But it shouldn't be in a situation then where we've not addressed this left back for 2 years now? Because I think even prior to last season, we were saying that we needed an upgrade or backup for Greg Taylor, because we've seen that Bernabe wasn't producing. So this isn't, just on this January transfer window. That inability to address the left back issue has been going on for a couple of years. So again, how bad must the scouting and the data that we look at be that we couldn't have addressed that in all that time? So there are major problems with that. But another argument and another discussion that I've had at the weekend with people is, I've been quite patient and I've been quite defensive of Rodgers to an extent this season, but it's now getting at the point where you need to look at that as well. We're now past January, the window's over, so you want to kind of move away from that. As much as we all know the glaring problems that we've got at boardroom level, recruitment level, the wider picture, we've now got what we've got. We're in a title battle, so we need to work with what we've got, and that includes Rodgers, who needs to be getting more out of this group than he currently is. So that, I feel like now the discussion needs to be more on that as well, as to why is he not getting the best out of these players? Why is Kyogo looking so much a forlorn figure? You've seen when Ida came on at the weekend, I thought we suddenly looked a bit brighter. Kyogo had someone to link up with. I'd love to see the two of them play on Wednesday. But if again we go back to type, then you start asking questions of the manager.
Yep.
There comes that point, and it's okay to come out and say, right, I wanted quality, I didn't get my quality, etc., etc. But there comes that point where you say, right, you're not going to get anything else in the door. Now it's time to deal with the squad that you've got and get the best out of them. And I think it's important now to ask the question, what does he do differently, Jerry? Because two of the guys that I constantly go back to, we can talk about players that have played better under Brendan Rodgers. I think the two names would be Matt O'Reilly and Liam Scales. Who else has played better under Brendan Rodgers? Because there's two guys whose form has not been as good as you would expect, and that's Kyogo Furuhashi and Rio Atati. So I made the point during the week there that Rio Atati, match day 1, he's dropped. He's dropped for a guy in David Turnbull who clearly had no future at the club because 5 months later he's away, right? But what did that do to Rio Atati? I know he's had his injury problems, Jerry, but Rio Atati, he's the type of guy you build your team around. He's a game-changing player. A complete, for me, an elite level player who I would go into a Champions League game and be confident with him in my midfield. Yet he got dropped. I don't think that was managed that well. You look at Kyogo, we could probably devote an entire 60-minute show to what has happened to Kyogo this season. I keep going back to the fact that, his goals against Rangers this season are the reason we're top of the league. But over the piece, Jerry, he's not looked like the same Kyogo that we've seen for 2 years prior to this season. So Brendan Rodgers doesn't get a free pass on this one, does he?
Definitely not. Definitely not. It's hard. It's a tough one. I think when you look back at the Hatate situation, I had that much faith in Brendan Rodgers, and I think a lot of people did at the time as well and went, well, he's dropped him for a reason. But now I'm kind of looking back when I've lost a bit of faith going, what are you dropping Hatate for? But it just seems that every player under him has got worse. Alistair Johnson, I just think a shadow of the player. Abada just back from injury, I get it, but you tell me his head and heart's still in it. I just don't see it. I was watching clips of him from a couple of seasons ago. The passion in that boy, he's just a different figure of a man now. And I understand that. If that is the case. Matt O'Reilly's not really been the form he was in the first half of the season. He was just setting the pitch alight at times, and he still gets some great moments in the game, but not consistently all the way through the game. Callum McGregor playing worse. He's changed the team so many times to try and get a different result, but gets the same result every time. So he's got to start looking at maybe not just the team, it's the way it's set up. 3-5-2, everyone's screaming out for, just because we want to see a difference. You look how the energy changed when you brought, is it Ida? Ida, how am I saying it right? Ida?
He has said that it's Ida. So I'm going to go with his. Yeah.
I'll go with him. He knows himself better than any of us, right? So I'll go with Ida. Right? So Ida, and when Ida and Kuhn come on, did the pace change? Everything changed. Kyogo was on the ball a lot more. And I think, you thought it was going to spark into life, but then it was another 20 odd minutes and it died down again. There was times that I think looked a bit frustrated. The missus pointed that out at times because the ball was there and he wasn't getting it from the midfield. Like Kyogo was getting frustrated. Something's not happening. It's not clicking in the midfield. You've either got to change your tactics or change your manager. And I hate saying that, but you can't just keep blaming the squad all the time. He's sticking up saying he's got the players in that he wanted just now, but he's not changing anything. Do you know, you could probably take any Monday Acsom that we've been on in the past 5 weeks, Acsom, and just played that one today, and people wouldn't have noticed the difference. Because we talk about the same things all the time. If we had £1 for every time we spoke about needing a new left back the past 2 years, we'd have enough to buy Kieran Tierney. That's how bad this has been. And I just think he's got to start changing things to show, look, all right, I get it, it's not been working. No stubbornness, no ego, just change it. Like Acsom says, if he doesn't start with the two up front midweek, I think it's going to annoy a lot of people because there was a difference in the energy. And I think, by the way, I think Ida's going to be a player, and I was the opposite when we signed him, but I've seen some things that I like.
We're going to talk about the two new guys, Acsom, but here's a wee point. Here's a wee interesting point. I'm going to link this. What are you drinking?
You ever tried what Megan got this for me? Kefir drink. Kefir, just go off topic, right? Anyone ever tried that?
No. The look on your face, I never will.
It's like southern milk.
I'm sure it's good for you.
Not for me.
Here's an interesting one, Acsom, right? So we're talking about how Celtic do the recruitment. I've got this, utopia vision that we are the best in our class, right? We've got the best system. You can say to me, I need a left back, right? Okay, we put it into the data system based on age, wages, transfer fee, and all the metrics that we need for him to fit into our game plan, right? And then you get your short list. You then start scouting them. It gets shorter. You're left with maybe a handful of players. You talk to them. Do they have it in them to come and play for Celtic, etc.? And then you're using data analysis. You're using scouting, and then you're using judgment based on the gaffer. That for me is a joined up way of buying a player, right? Absolutely. Yeah. Last pre-season, we actually played Rapid Vienna and Norwich. And who came on for Norwich? Oh, yes, Adam Ida. And who played for Rapid Vienna? You've guessed it, Nicholas Kuhn. Is that what we're basing this on? We've got, they were decent. Remember that guy? He was decent. Remember the big guy that came on in 77 minutes? He was all right. We'll go and see if he's available. I don't think we're utilising everything that's at our disposal. But I do want to talk about the two new guys because I agree with Jerry. I think they made a good impact at the weekend, Acsom.
Yeah, look, if we're going to talk about positives, and for me that was the positive. I thought Ida, when he came on, was very bright, really linked up play well. He had a good attitude about him. He got into good positions. He got an assist for Kuhn's goal. So I like the look of him. And people have been saying, he's been getting a lot of stick, and after his signing and stuff, but nothing was aimed at him. No. There was nothing personal against him. Obviously, people that haven't watched him, all we can do is look at his stats or listen to people who have watched him more, like the likes of Chris Sutton. But then ultimately, we're going to judge him based on what he does for Celtic. And I've not seen anything negative towards him since the weekend. I think everyone's kind of unanimous in that he came on and did well. And I thought it suddenly brought the best out of Kyogo again a wee bit in terms of just getting involved in the game. He looks so frustrated. Honestly, it's getting worse each week when he's isolated up there. But as soon as Ida came on, I thought they were linking with each other well. And Kuhn as well, a nice goal, obviously deflected, but just getting himself in those positions. He was looking to get involved, and that'll do his confidence good that he's obviously got the goal. He'll be disappointed it wasn't part of a winning team, but yeah, you now want to see these players get a start on Wednesday. And again, as Jerry said, so many people are screaming out for it, 3-5-2. I just don't see him changing the formation. I think whether it's out of stubbornness or just he's got a belief that his system's the right way and he won't change it. He doesn't seem the type of manager that does start with different formations. I remember when we had Edouard and Dembele at the start of his third season, he was looking like he was going to go with the two up front for a bit, and then obviously Dembele parted. But I think it's worth giving the two of them a go now, whether it's Kyogo playing as the kind of number 10 almost, false 9, or if it is a case of just doing the 3-5-2, especially in the absence of Greg Taylor at the moment, then it's as good a time as ever to play the three centre-backs. You've got Welsh, Nawrocki and Scales, and see if that works. But it's, what we're doing at the moment doesn't seem to be working. So why not try something different? But yeah, the positive for me, the takeaway from the weekend was the fact that these two guys came on and looked like they can offer something. So that's what we can cling on to, and I'd like to see both of them hopefully get a start. Abada for me just doesn't look at it.
No.
Whether it's a kind of mental thing or Abada for me has always been like that though. He's someone that has great stats again, and he's good for a goal, he's good for getting an assist. But I've always felt he can be quite frustrating to watch, in terms of his creativity. He's not that kind of player that's going to beat a man with skill. I think the way we played under Ange again really just suited him. It just suited his style. But yeah, he just doesn't look like he's fully there yet. Palma, frustrating as ever again at the weekend. I thought he was involved in a lot of the good stuff in the first half. I thought he was, but then just equally as frustrating. And then his inability for their goal, just to, like you say, make a clever decision to either bring the guy down or really bust a gut to get there before him. My dad's kind of been slating him for a few weeks, and I'm always like, you're being a bit harsh, you're being a bit too harsh. But the more you watch him, you've said it for a while about his discipline. And see when he's not getting you goals and assists, then you do start looking at his other sides to the game. But he's a young player, so you kind of cut them slack. But at this moment in time, we need a group of players who are hungry for this title race, because that's exactly what it is. And you then do look at that squad and you look who are our leaders in there, and barring maybe 3 or 4, you look around them and it's not there.
This is the thing whereby as a group, I don't have the confidence in the guys we brought in the summer to say that they have got the guts and they've got the mentality of a title fight. And I would be far more likely, when available, to bring in everybody who was a part of last season's team. I would be playing Maeda. I know that he has always divided opinion, but when he comes back, he'd be right in the team. I agree with you on Abada, but I do think that Nicholas Kuhn showed, for me, a directness that I really liked. He was quite happy to run at them. I'll give you an example of negativity. I was quite happy with his performance, and I said as much on the socials, and I got someone saying, even his goal was deflected. Come on, that's negative, man. He came on, he made a difference. You could, it's energy. You could see the energy rising when he and Ida came on. And I think that guys like Palma, they're technically gifted footballers, but that only gets you so far. And when you come to a football club like Celtic, do not be surprised if you play rubbish as a team and there's fans booing at the end, even if you've won. Don't be surprised, right? Because it's all about demands, and I don't mind that we're now called demanders in some quarters of the media, Jerry. We demand the best for our team. We want to see us being the best. At the end of the season, no matter what has happened, we've regressed because we've not won what we won last season. So already we know that, right? But between now, the next 14 games, you want everybody who has got the guts for the battle in the starting 11. And we're going to be asking, how do you approach Easter Road on Wednesday night? But I'm keen to get some of the comments, and I know us three, we've been hogging it today. No wonder, after everything that's been happening.
Sorry.
On you go, Jerry. On you go.
I was going to say, remember what happened when Maeda came back for the World Cup, or was it the Euros? He came back absolutely smashing it, remember? He'd been away.
He was primed, yeah.
He was primed. Yeah. And see the scrappy goal things, right? I get it with some people. I don't know, that's a bit negative, but we're trying too hard to get the perfect goal. It's never happening, right? These teams are sitting back. What we need is getting more scrappy goals. That's why Ida's in here to help us with that. We're missing that. We've not got anyone in about it. Just get the scrappy goals. If we win by scrappy goals, happy days. I don't care, because we're not winning it any other way. We're not winning with this elite complete football that we're trying to do, which doesn't look like we're trying to anyway, but it's got to be the scrappiness. I think Ida coming in and Kuhn coming in, I thought they looked great. So that's my opinion on them.
I remember my favourite scrappy goal, Jerry, was Celtic versus Rangers, right? Back in the 90s. Sorry, Celtic da moment. Where's the Clarkson, right? Back in the 90s. And they were winning everything, and we beat them in the cup. We beat them 1-0, and it was Tommy Coyne, right? Mm-hmm. And it was a scrappy goal at the back post. And I remember, I don't know what part of his anatomy it hit, but it hit him and went in. And then as soon as he stood up, John Brown, you'll remember, Bomber Brown, where's the deeds? He then battered Tommy Coyne into the side netting. Back in the day, I seen where, just turn a blind eye to that, no booking, nothing. But it was the scrappiest goal ever. That was the game. And there's going to be people in the comment section who remember this vividly. I watched that game. as many times as I've watched that Aberdeen goal at the weekend, Jerry. After the game, right, Terry Butcher, it was at Celtic Park, right, and Billy McNeil, Big Billy's getting interviewed, and it's live. It was live on the telly. Cup game. Terry Butcher almost kicks a door off its hinges. Can you remember that, guys? Can you remember him doing it? So Butcher comes into the room that Billy McNeil's getting interviewed, and he kicks the door, and the door about comes off its hinges, right? And Big Billy turns round as if he's going to have a square go with him. It's a brilliant moment. I don't know if Lil Z or Tam Selleck or one of these guys is bound to have put that up on YouTube, but it was like the post-match interview, and it was live on STV or whatever, Jerry.
I think we should just spend the hour chatting about good memories of all games.
What's the scrappiest goal you've ever seen? But do you care? It's still there. It's a scrappy goal.
Remember Mark Wilson? I think Mark Wilson scored a scrappy winner against them in a cup game, was it? Or 1-0? It was a
replay. That one where he's trying to volley it and it's skiffed and hit the ground.
He actually knocked out Sasa Papac. Remember, he hits it. Papac blocks it. It comes back to him. Yeah, Mark Wilson, there you go. That was his moment in the sun for Celtic, wasn't it? Right. Remind me of anything else I might have missed about that particular goal by Tommy Coyne and what happened after it with Butcher kicking the door off its hinges and Big Billy. It was just a look. It was the death stare, the 20-yard stare. It was brilliant. I know who I'd be backing. Rob Lilly, Acsom contributors have been spot on with concerns. I really thought players would come in even at the last minute. These are things that sometimes you learn at a later date, don't you? Oh, we almost got Declan Rice. Roddy McDonald's, I would find a place for Kyogo and the big Irishman to start. Let's talk about that then. How do we do it, Asim? Because I was looking at the two games leading into Aberdeen. We know that the three away fixtures back-to-back, Easter Road next, followed by St Mirren. I think the prelude or preparing for those games, it would have made a good plan for me to play a different shape against Buckie Thistle and Ross County, because I mean they're both home games against lesser opposition, and get the players into that mould, if you like, and into the groove of playing a different kind of setup, a different shape. Because let's be honest, we've played the same shape for a long time, but we're too late now. We're now one game into that three tricky away game kind of collection. Do you think he'll change it? Do you think he'll see it as too much of a risk?
I think he will, because he's very risk averse, even with our style of play. It's very kind of cautious in terms of possession based, and for him to then suddenly change up the whole system. You know what? I'd love it if he does it, because I think it was what we've all been calling out for, and I just felt it was an injection of something. I know we didn't go on to win the game, but at least we ended the game a bit more on the front foot again. When Ida came on, and I think again we need to look at ways to utilise what we've got at the moment. And when we're struggling for a left back at the moment, when our wide players aren't really producing, in terms of creation, when Kyogo's isolated and not getting involved, then we need to think of ways to address that. And that's not just going to fix overnight, because these are issues that we've seen for quite a while. Now, I like the midfield three of Bernardo, O'Reilly, and McGregor. Pre the last couple of games, I think they've kind of slacked off again, or just kind of gone off the boil. But I would find a way to fit the two of them in, whether like I said earlier, whether that's Kyogo maybe playing as a number 10, and if we're sticking to the kind of shape that he wants and taking out one of the midfielders, or a 3-5-2. I just don't think he's going to change it to a 3-5-2 though, as much as for me that's probably what makes the most sense. I think he'll stick with what we've got and have the option of Ida coming on, because he'll probably want to have someone on the bench should again we be chasing a goal when he needs to change it. I think that's the other issue when we've only got the two strikers available just now. I thought Bata did okay as well when he came on. Again, it's just an injection of something, but we'll see. I don't see Bernabe starting. I just don't see it. He got hooked not long after his mistake at the weekend, so I don't think he'll come on. I don't think he'll start. Whether again that means Ralston at left back or maybe Scales, we'll see. But yeah, I feel it's time to change it. Whether he does that Easter Road, like you said, it doesn't seem the ideal kind of game where we already struggle as it is. For him to probably try a completely new shape in the space of 3-4 days, I don't know. But I guess we'll find out soon enough.
If you're
I agree. I think he's going to be playing safe, Jerry. Even the lineup when it was announced at the weekend there, I thought largely it was quite a safe lineup, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think we keep getting excited thinking he's going to change it, and he just doesn't. I don't think he's going to change it again on Wednesday. He's going to stick to his guns. The good thing, if you go 3-5-2, you're opening up more opportunity for the likes of Vata. You know what I mean? To come on and get more chance if you're playing with 2 strikers as well. Hear me out here, right? Why don't just go 4-4-2? Nobody plays that anymore. Nobody will know how to defend against that. Just go here. Right, lads, 4-4-2, the instructions. You're all better than them individually. Go and win me that game. I'm sick of it all. I'm sick of tactics.
The thing is, we should have Maida back as well, and I think that can make a difference if we're changing shape, because he can play that wing back role.
Yeah,
more better than anyone else, because I've seen he played. He played for Japan. He started against Iran, and that was probably their most difficult game. So it was interesting that Moriyasu decided to use and start Maida there, because again he probably thought, I'll need his defensive efforts. So I think Maida, they got knocked out a couple of days ago now, so he'll be back. So I'd be intrigued to see if he comes back. I forgot about that there, but that's a good option to have again, because as you mentioned, Jerry, he came back last time from an international break strongly. And I do feel, as much as he's got his flaws, and we all know that, but he does help us a lot in terms of that defensive side of things. And if we've then got the likes of Kuhn on the other side who can do the creation, then that may be something that could work.
I would agree with that. If Maida is available to play, he goes right into the starting 11 for me. I don't think in the last few weeks... Listen, Palma over the piece has shown that there are attributes to his game, and hopefully we can tap into them a wee bit more. Tighten up on the discipline, tighten up on the defensive work. You're going to have to be. I mean, that's a classic example of the Aberdeen breakaway, the counter-attack. You've got to have defensive qualities if you're going to be playing on the wing. Jota, I think, I'd like to see the stats actually from someone like Alan Morrison. I think Jota in the second season was far better defensively than he was in the first. That's my eye test. I'd love to see the stats, see if it would prove that or otherwise. I'll tell you something, you get away with nothing on this show.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Nothing.
Oh, what did I say? Did I say Adam Johnson again?
No, not this time. Not this time. But you did put Japan in Europe. So Ian Matheson, is Jerry a geography teacher? Nearly crashed the car, says Ian, enjoying the show. There you go. You get away with nothing on the show. And by the way, and I'll always bring it up, especially if it's me. If it's a faux pas by me, bring it up. Get it in.
I nearly made a joke about Maida and the playing when he was playing against the team. Maida, Iran. But decided not to say it because it was a bad joke.
Good comeback, though. Good comeback, Jerry.
And just putting that up, Paul John, I appreciate that.
I was going to bring it up earlier, and I was like, nah, I'll let him off with it.
We had Chris coming in to do his match day debut, and he was getting called Michael Ball. Actually, I think he looks more like Jamie Oliver. But listen, there is no hiding place.
Hey, who's the picture we put up in the group chat? He looks like, I think is it Mark Miller that wrote Kick-Ass?
Yes.
I thought it was a picture of Chris you'd put up at first.
Right. So we touched on this the other day. Just to clarify, Mark Miller, a pal of mine who I used to work with, was into graphic novels. I've never really been in. I was into Marvel comics when I was wee and all that, DC, but as an adult. But this guy used to buy them, and he says, Mark Miller, Coatbridge, and I never knew who he was. But since then, he brought in the Wanted graphic novel, which was later turned into and adapted into a movie with James McAvoy. Who else was in it? John Voight's daughter.
Angelina Jolie.
That's the one. She was in that movie as well. And basically the villains are all Rangers. They're wearing like the Rangers NTL strip. And then there's a scene where there's a coffin. It was quite, ironic that later happened. Coffin was being lowered down and there was a Rangers scarf on it. And Wolverine of all people was wearing the hoops. So check it out. It's Mark Miller. He was obviously the author of it. And he's told the artist to get the hoops in there.
Also does a lot for charity, Mark Miller. When I did the pantomimes at the Pavilion, he would pay for his school, his whole school. He would pay for them all to come and watch the pantomime every single year. He's a great guy, apparently. Never met him. And if you ever do know him, tell him to put me in one of his films.
Yes, that would be nice. Jimmy, we locked out big time with Ange, hid the board's deficiencies for 2 seasons. This is a good point, Asim, right? Because obviously, and I can take it, I can take the stick. I can take it from Aberdeen or Hibs or Hearts fans and all the rest of it saying, "Oh, Wobetide, you guys, what a shame for yous, you never won the league." It's not really about that for me. I think we've been talking for a long time about deficiencies behind the scenes rather. And when Eddie Howe decided for whatever reason, he wasn't going to come to Celtic. We were sold the line that we had been pursuing somebody else anyway at the same time as Eddie Howe. It's not like we put all our eggs in the Eddie Howe basket, right? And we were led to believe that the person we'd been pursuing was Ange Postecoglou. And it wasn't until much, much later, where it's no longer really an issue, right? And Ange is getting interviewed 2 seasons down the line, that he's asked specifically about the contact. And it was very much like the Adam Eder thing, where he's like, hi, they phoned me on Monday morning, you know, as if we've been tracking them for all this. Yeah. No, they never had a clue. They just phoned me on Monday. It was a wee bit like that because you could actually, you could gauge it back. He was contacted 2 days after Eddie Howe knocked us back. Ange Postecoglou had not been contacted by Celtic at any point until 2 days after Eddie Howe knocked us back. And you can actually gauge it on interviews and information that they've given since. So it wasn't like a really well thought out plan, Acsom. You know, we locked out big time.
Well, isn't he part of the City group?
Yeah.
So
recommendations.
You know, like you said, it's part of that same old recommendations. And I remember when that link came out. Look, we were all guilty of it at the start when Ange was given the job. We were all finding negatives with it, myself included, probably. You know, looking at, it's just it's laziness. Who is this guy? All that. So, but now when you look back, it does seem like, again, as I said, it's an anomaly. We just lucked out in the sense that I do think the City group links helped us there in that sense again. And then he's came in, and again, as I said, the way his character is and the way he is, he's a figurehead. He's someone like the likes of Jurgen Klopp who basically take ownership of everything within that club. And I just think it worked perfectly for us for those 2 years. He was just somebody you loved listening to. You loved the style of football. The recruitment at the start was pretty much 100% for 2 windows. It was bang on everything. You know, we were all then praising Michael Nicholson. It's just funny how things change, you know, because everything was everything. You know, that holy trinity that Brendan Rodgers previously spoke about. It was there during Ange's time, but then as soon as he's came back, and it's not because of just Rodgers, I'm saying. But Rodgers speaks about this, how they're, you know, I think he said it in his press conference last week, as soon as there's separation, it's a difficult club. As soon as everyone's not in the same, pulling in the same direction. And it feels for a lot of Rodgers' time at the club, other than his maybe first 1.5, 2 seasons, it's been like that because there always seems to be some kind of conflict between those above Rodgers and him in terms of where they see the club going. And then there's always been issues with fans, I remember back at that time, and again this season. So it just seems like those two years under Ange, it was just, like you say, a freak where everything worked out. We had this genius at the helm, and I know people don't like us keep on going on about it, but obviously that's our most recent comparison of how things were and how things worked well under a different kind of regime or system in terms of he just took ownership. And it's all changed now, but here we go. We obviously, again, there's no point in kind of going over that now. We just have to work with what we've got and see how we can try and get by the line this season, and then we'll probably rinse and repeat, have the same discussions in summer. But for now, I've seen a lot of people say, the fans need to back the team. I don't think we're not backing the team. The fans are there backing the team. The issues aren't, you know, in terms of the fans right from the off or just booing the team. That's not the case. You know, again, the fans will be there in their numbers on Wednesday. They'll be supporting the team. So I don't buy into that suddenly because the fans are a wee bit, you know, disappointed with how things are going, that's suddenly impacting how the team performs. You know, if the team starts performing or things are going well, the fans are there backing them as always.
I totally agree with that as well. And you know, when you look at what we've got to do for the rest of the season, it starts on Wednesday night, and we'll be talking about how we line up just to finish the show off. It's been a quick one, actually. I wouldn't say that it's been negative. I'm feeling a lot better. It's almost like therapeutic for me on a Monday afternoon, by the way, gentlemen. We're going to have exactly. I've been called worse. We're going to have the return of a regular Acsom contributor who's not been in the show for a while next Monday. So there could be a whole full house of Acsom contributors on the show on Monday. Jerry N, hilarious moment with Butcher. I remember watching it live. Can anybody who follows us on the old socials, if that's out there, link us in. It's a great moment. Great moment.
Any Celtic videos you've got that are brilliant, just tag me on them.
Tag us in. Martin T, I remember it well. Big Billy, he was absolutely fuming, was Billy McNeil. He really was. John Boy, PJ, Lowell still hasn't got the door fixed. Yeah, you're probably right. A bit of tape on it. That'll do. That's fine. How much do we miss Taylor, Jerry, or Greg?
I'm here.
Would be my answer to that, George. We said the other week, didn't we? You get injuries to somebody like Joe Hart, Greg Taylor, Kubo Furuhashi, and we're really struggling. That was the big argument we had going into the window as well. Joe Hamilton, we will take 6 points off that bunch. But if we keep playing like this, we'll drop 7. This is a conversation we're having, by the way.
It's true.
Wait, right. That's the thing. I think you mentioned earlier, Jerry, the last time we were probably on here after a good result was that Rangers game. And I think that's the frustration, is we know that we're capable. We know we've got the better of them twice. So it's just it's annoying that having taken 6 points off them, we're still essentially level. The other positive to take, if we move away from just ourselves and our own kind of inconsistencies, is I don't know if they've necessarily got the bottle for a title race either. I think another wee drop points from them unexpectedly, and you could see, I don't think they're a great team. I don't think by any means. I don't think we're up against a really strong Rangers. I think that's where again a lot of our frustrations come from, because it's not up against one of the better Rangers sides of the past, which makes it all the more frustrating. But yeah, I'd like to see how they react to maybe drop points where they don't expect it, and that might give us a push again as well. So I don't think I don't know where are you guys at in terms of this title race, in terms of percentages. What would you say? How do you think we're going?
It's a good way to finish that, Acsom.
Because
it is, Jerry. Come on, we could finish on a high.
Yeah, it depends on our answers, I guess.
Right, 14 games to go. Obviously, we'll talk about the Scottish Cup and all that later on, but 14 games to go, Jerry Taylor. Do we win this? Because I think Acsom makes a very good point. To have gone through the process of winning and knowing what it takes to win. Bear in mind, they're up against a 75-year-old Neil Warnock in their game against Aberdeen, right?
I know.
He's a Rangers fan, by the way.
Who's a Rangers fan? Aye, exactly. Aye. He's given that, him and Ali, big pals. Oh, brilliant, Neil. Aye, fantastic. Right, so whether or not they take anything from Rangers is obviously going to be, I think, debatable. Do you think, Jerry Taylor, that we are able to go on a run? Listen, we're on a run, an unbeaten run. Can we win this league? Simple as that. Can we do it, Jerry?
Yes, and we will. It's just going to be a lot harder than what it should have been to win it. We're going to have the players coming back. Hatate will be back just towards the end of a lot of the important games. I think that'll be a big boost. They've still to hit a wee dip in form, which will happen. I guarantee that will happen. And yeah, I'm confident, but it doesn't mean I'm not disappointed in the January transfer window. But yeah, we're still going to do it. We've got great players. We have got a great manager. If it's taking too long to click, fair enough, but it's got to click now. Ask me next week, right? But I really do believe we've still got it in us to turn the corner.
This should be the final question.
For us.
Sorry, this. Jerry, you slowed down a wee bit, so I jumped in and then I interrupt you. I think every Monday this should be the final question on the show. And then we can gauge it. Right?
I'll change my mind every week. You know what I'm like?
Well, you're allowed to, though. You're allowed to.
Do you remember the last time it went to? Well, the last time it was this close. I remember when one of the ones was under Martin O'Neill when it was goal difference. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
But you just hope it doesn't get as close as that. I think, from my point of view, we've got a manager and a core group of players who've done it, who've won this league and have been there and done that. They've got a manager who's obviously won the league, but a lot of their players won't have experienced that before. In terms of the fixtures, I know we've got a tough run right now, but the split, and after we'll have the home games, we'll have the last derby fixture at home. So you look at those kind of things as things that hopefully can tip it in our favour. But I do think it's going to be very tight. I would say for me it is 50-50, just because of the momentum right now. But that can quickly turn, especially in Glasgow. We know that all it takes is a weekend of the opposite results and suddenly the picture changes. So, maybe I'll change that to 55-45 Celtic.
Nice. I'm going to say, based on what's going to happen this week, will give us a very, very good idea. There's a lot of football to be played. I know that's a cliche. I think bringing Maeda back, guys like Matt O'Reilly stepping back up, Callum McGregor got a bit of stick at the weekend. I think he always returns for that with good performances. Joe Hart had a decent game. He's been slagged off all season. He's had a decent game at the weekend as well. The injection of the 2 new guys, and then obviously some of the guys coming back as well. I do think we've got enough. It's going to be very, very tight. It might even go to the last day. So every single goal, every opportunity, every point is a prisoner from here on in. So thank you, everybody else. And the DJ of choice, we expect bravery. We expect people to step up, stand up, be counted. And we do have enough quality in this squad to do it. Let's just hope that we do get it over the line. By the way, 1,500 live on the Monday afternoon. Acsom Bulletin. Thank you, every single one of you, for getting involved. Remember to subscribe to the channel. Give us a thumbs up. We're supporting wee Jamie Tierney. It's brilliant that some of Jerry's pals, wee Wido, etc., are getting behind wee Jamie as well. Phenomenal effort. Check them out on the socials. The more the merrier. Happy birthday to his old fella as well today. I hope he gets a day off work. And yeah, we'll keep pushing that. I've got to say this, even this morning, loads of live events coming up with Acsom. We've done most of our live events, if not all of them, actually, last year in Glasgow. We're moving all over the place. And if your CSC fancies it, give us a shout. We can bring a top name along and have a great night of entertainment with the Acsom team. Thank you, every one of you. Thank you to Asim Rabbani and Jerry Taylor also for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.